Hello. Hello, everyone at ESI. Hashtag ESI LGN. Let us know how you're getting on. We are nearly at the end of the day, but I have been waiting for this panel. I want to say all weekend because it's 2 days, but we're actually on a weekday. I have been waiting for this panel over the past 2 days because this is a very special panel. It's called Gaming, Esports and Recovery at the Invictus Games. And if you've not heard of the Invictus Games, I know there's a documentary on Netflix called Heart of Invictus. BBC always gets involved with the coverage every year, and it's a fantastic event, basically, and these guys are going to tell you all about it. We are going to be, we're lucky to have you, Daniel Bingley, Network Architect for RBL, and I know you're going to introduce your panel. And I've been told he loves to talk, so if I suddenly start doing jumping jacks at the front of the stage, it's because I've been told that I need to stop Daniel talking, but I'm not going to want to. So I'm going to do very sad jumping jacks if that's the case, but I'm sure it won't happen. So Daniel, I'll leave everyone with you on the stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
So hello everyone, my name's Daniel Bingley. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been around the esports space trying to motivate and help esports teams and companies with talking about mental health and recovery for veterans. That's a bit about me. I would like to introduce Sam from Invictus.
Hi everybody, I'm Sam from the Invictus Games Foundation. I'm the Director of Communications. We use sport to help international wounded, injured and sick service personnel and veterans to recover from their injuries or illnesses. And we're here today to learn about how esports can help elevate that recovery journey for more people.
And we've also got Dan from UVG.
Morning, well, afternoon. I'm Dan Penter, formerly the RAF, founder of the RAF Esports, and now founding UK Veterans Gaming, a not-for-profit aiming to connect gamers through esports.
Thank you. And that's the two gentlemen on the panel. So I think the first question is, what is Invictus Games? Enlighten us.
So the Invictus Games is an international adaptive sporting event for 25 countries around the world. It happens every 2 years, and the philosophy is using sport for recovery. So the idea is not about elite performance, and it's not about doing the best you can do. It's about the fact that you're there and the fact that you have worked towards getting there. We say that if you've made it to the start line, you've already won. So these men and women that have been injured in service need a catalyst to rediscover their sense of purpose. And to recover through sports is one incredible way of doing that. But as I say, it's not about the sports. It's about the fact that they've set themselves a target. It's about the fact they're competing once again as part of a team. And it's about the fact that they are there representing their country once again. When you take the catalyst of competitive sports and you put it through the lens of recovery and through the lens of adaptive sports, you create this kind of magic that really does change lives and save lives. And that's what the Invictus Games are all about. In between the games, they're every 2 years, we provide opportunities for access to marathons, to climbing mountain, to doing all kinds of opportunities to continue to use sport and adventurous challenge. And that's all about setting themselves targets and achieving the things that you think aren't possible for people that are dealing with quite severe and complex injuries or illnesses, whether that's physical or mental. The other component of the Invictus Games, which is really special compared to other sporting events, is that family members are funded to come along too. So for every single competitor that comes to an Invictus Games, we fund 2 family members to join them because they are part of that recovery journey and they have their own recovery journey to go through too. And so it's all about that community network and the support network that around that individual that we're really keen to facilitate through sports and now through esports also. So yeah, I'll pause there.
Yeah, and as Sam just mentioned there, I have been through the Invictus journey myself, and I can't vouch enough or praise enough what that foundation has done for me as an individual, but also for my family, my friends, and the people I support around me as well. So that brings me on to the next question then, Dan. So what's UVG?
It's probably easy if I start with the journey I've been on over the last 4 or 5 years. In the Royal Air Force, having been a lifelong gamer, mainly MMOs and badly at FPS, we wanted to start some sort of gaming community. It really started as a who wants to play effort on Discord, and it rapidly expanded way beyond what we expected. We ended up with 500 gamers inside 3 or 4 months, all from the Air Force, competing at Insomnia. Then came COVID, and suddenly we became a place where people were meeting to keep in contact. We realised there was huge benefits for mental well-being, both for people at home isolating, but also people away on operations worldwide, keeping in touch with their friends and keeping in touch with their family. I've now left the Air Force about 3 or 4 months ago, and throughout the time we were building our AF Esports, we were in contact with veterans, largely through the efforts of Daniel, who was popping up at lots of events that we were at. So a few colleagues who I've met through gaming and through Daniel over the years have got together to form a veterans equivalent, UK Veterans Gaming. We only launched a couple of months ago. We've got about 250 people so far, and the idea is to connect veterans through gaming. Start small, build it, see who comes, and hopefully we'll be as big as we got in the Air Force and the Army, with a few thousand players and starting to develop competitive teams in the next few years.
First things first, Dan, I'd just like to say thank you very much for setting up that organisation. But it's, as individuals out here, they go, veterans, but why? Well, I fully agree. They need a support network from when they leave to help with their transition, where it helps with communication and help with their mental health, which obviously covers esports, and we'll be covering that later on in the subject. But Sam, esports, why Invictus Esports? Enlighten us.
Well, I can go into Invictus and eSport, but do you want to talk first about your journey? Could you competed in the Invictus Games yourself? So as a former veteran and kind of going through your injury and you've taken on to sports, maybe you can talk a bit more about that as a kind of a living, breathing example.
So a bit about my journey, and why do we call it a journey? Because it's my life, it's affected me, but it's not just affected me, it's affected everyone around me. So it is a journey. So I did 18 years in the Army. I deployed all around the world. Been in some difficult situations and some adverse situations. From that, I got injured. And when you've been a very active person all your life and you wanted to progress your career and all that what goes with it, when you become disabled, which is the word I do not like, I prefer the word ability. But when I became disabled, it affected me mentally and physically. One, as you've seen, trying to get onto a stage, trying to do things, it's emotionally daunting, difficult, and then you have to have people help you support that. But then the mental side of it is impacting, and it's really hard to explain. Being a physical person all your life, to go, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you're going, but why? That was my life. That's what I enjoyed, and one of the ways I've dealt with that personally is through esports. So even though I do sports to a high level now, we try to get into the Paralympic Games. When I want to speak to like-minded people and involved with things that I enjoy, which is esports, going back to old RTS, Command & Conquer, Red Alert, all that, it's still a competitive nature, but it's the mental side of that, of communicating with others who are like-minded, which is brilliant. And it's great to see that Invictus is now looking at this space, and I just want to see what they're going to do.
Great, thank Dan. I think what's important to share is that we have a huge cohort of veterans that have gone through the Invictus Games and have shown us that physical sport and the games as an entity and as a product have a hugely transformational effect on the lives of the men and women that take part, as well as those that are at home watching. Whether or not they're a veteran, everyone has trauma in their lives, and the fact that sport has a powerful role to play in overcoming that trauma and redefining and rediscovering purpose is a lesson for everybody to take on. What stories like your own, Dan, has done for Invictus Games, it led us to understand that esports can have a similar role to play. So the last Invictus Games we had in The Hague, and then last month in Germany, in Düsseldorf, we had an esports tent to kind of try to unpick what capacity esports has to replicate some of these beneficial transformational pathways that we've seen with physical sports. And it's all about communication, it's all about community, it's all about connection. It's about setting yourself those goals, and it's about bettering yourself through having something that you can train for and get better in. So we're seeing and we're hearing that there's so much impact to be felt. And if anybody's coming tonight to the film festival, you'll see a film that we've made that has veterans talking about their lived experience of how esports can have an impact on what they want to do. What we're now looking to do moving forward is, can esports become the 10th sport at the Invictus Games? Can it sit alongside the traditional physical sport that we offer, or should it become its own standalone event? So those are some of the questions that we have about the kind of going forward, and how many opportunities can we create to provide continued sustained access to esports for our global community.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Sam. And as a person who loves watching esports and people who take part in it, I'd love to see a professional team, either with FIFA, whatever type of game, but with professional players, with disabled veterans, having that ability, that camaraderie, that showing that even though these people are injured, they're still human beings and they still have the ability to show that they're human and they actually want to just enjoy life.
Exactly, and I think underpinning all of this is moving forward. What we really need is to get the research and the data to show all this. So we know it's true, we've seen it, but how can we evidence it in a way that everybody here today or wider can understand it? And
I fully agree with you. But Dan, obviously UVG, how are you as an organisation, as a charity, and what you're trying to achieve, how are you going to try and help the individuals that are silent or aren't around, that can be noticed and can be supported through what you're trying to achieve?
So I think, first of all, and Sam mentioned it, as you go through the Invictus journey of recovery, it's a journey, so where is the end point? The end point is some sort of stability and future. So for yourself, with your wheelchair volleyball, you're now playing wheelchair volleyball to a very high standard and you're looking at competing in Paralympic Games. For esports, what will that end state be? So I see UK Veterans Gaming as being a community that is somewhere people can land as they finish their Invictus recovery journey with esports. It's a community full of veterans who haven't needed that support, and so it's normalising community for people, whether they've had the benefit or needed the benefit of Invictus or not. In terms of how that manifests, if you put 3 veterans in a room, within 5 minutes they'll be talking about some sort of fundraising gig. So what we're looking at doing is having some kind of fundraising pathway. The way that community interest companies work, they have to have an asset lock that's a charity. So I've asset locked as many charities as I could find who are supporting veterans, with the idea that once we're large enough, we can start supporting them fundraising using gaming. So again, leveraging the power of the veterans community, giving them somewhere that's an always-on location, so if they do have a bad day, they got someone to drop into. And as we saw only last week, our first, oh my God, it's you moment, when a veteran who we picked up through TikTok dropped into the server and realised he was playing Call of Duty with someone who used to live in the room next to him 20 years ago, which was probably one of the most hilarious discussions I've heard for a long time, where they slowly zoned in from both being army to being in the same location at the same time, and both being boy racers with modified cars. And that took about 20 minutes, with the rest of us amusingly listening whilst playing Warzone, which is just, you can't beat those kind of moments.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. And I just want to talk about a quick subject, which I have spoken to most people here, and I apologise for hearing it, is I just want to cover what we talk about mental health. So mental health is twofold: mental health physically and mental health community. And that's communicating with others and like-minded people. And there is obviously 2 streams here. Obviously, you've got the performance aspect, which is all about generation of money, income, wealth for that team. But then obviously you've got the other side of it, which is a community aspect. And when I talk about mental health, it's that community side of, and the key word I love to use, I know as an Invictus athlete, is the key word is opportunity, is giving the silent people the opportunity to express, feel valued, take part, and feel part of community is so underachieved in the esports community, and it's something we should be looking into tap in a lot more. What is, I'd say, what is Invictus's view on promoting mental health in esports? Obviously, you're going to do the games, but what could you do to esports as an organisation to show and highlight, even just from a veteran point of view, but as into the general population, what can be achieved?
Yeah, I think, and we've been discussing this since the very beginning in 2014 in regard to sports, is that there is such an intertwinement between, that's not a word, but there is a relationship between physical fitness and mental fitness, and you can't have one without the other. And we have this conversation publicly around kind of mental health, but we don't have enough of a conversation about mental fitness. And what we go to the gym for our physical fitness, but what are we doing to prepare ourselves for developing resilience and developing better, healthier approaches to how our mental health is affected by the things that we do. So we've been exploring that since the beginning in terms of sports, and now we're turning that to esports and how we can develop healthy behaviors and ensure that the parameters are there in order to encourage healthy bodies and healthy minds.
And I fully agree. And I'm going to speak on behalf of both of them for a second. If anything from our conversation today could do anything, and you go, do you know something, I'd like to get involved with Invictus, I'd like to get involved with UK Veterans, please reach out and talk to us and engage, because if the craziest idea might actually become a brilliant idea. So from that, is there any questions from anybody out there who wants to talk, reference these two organisations or reference a mental health subject? The open forum's here. If not, I can ask more questions to the panel. So no questions, that's fine. I'll carry on. So, Dan, UVG, just started off. What would be a good enabler from coming here today which will help you generate growth for what you're trying to achieve?
The biggest thing for me right now is actually reaching veterans. Veterans charities and veterans organisations at the moment are very reliant on types of media that most people in the gaming industry have moved well past. Their LinkedIn and their Facebook. Reaching the generations of people who serve. Many people only do an average of 8 years in the military. So there's people in their early to mid-20s who are veterans. These are people who are used to TikTok, they're used to Instagram, they're used to all sorts of media that I, as a 40 or something old, have no real idea about other than through my kids. So we're going to reach these veterans, and how will we get these veterans in? It's all about communication. So my main plea is, if you are talking to your communities and you want to talk about veterans and gaming, then talk about UVG, and we'll collect as many as we can and then start making some waves across esports generally.
I fully agree. And do you know something you just mentioned there? It just made me think. We're talking about these companies, but what we haven't said is how many of these companies actually have veterans working for them. So that quite a lot of these people who, from your organisations, might have an armed forces network, might want to help veterans get into work, but you want to look at is what can they do to help veterans in esports as well. And I think that's a good thing to look internally in your organisations and see what can be done. Yep. I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of myself. Thank you for listening today. And I'll let you close off personally for both yourselves.
Great. Yes, thanks very much, everybody, for coming along. I guess there's three things for the Invictus Games Foundation to take forward. And so if any of these resonate with you or your organisations, please do get in touch. The first is research and evidence. So if you have any ability to access research that helps us make the case for esports for recovery, please do get in touch. If you have any evidence for best practice in developing healthy behaviours for gaming and esports, please get in touch. And then finally, if as a charity, we all need funding to carry on with our work. So if you're happy to donate, then please head to invictusgamesfoundation.org to find out more and to donate. Thank you.
And for me, hopefully I'll be seeing much more of everyone at various events. Just remember, veterans are epically good for your communities and for your companies. So don't forget to employ a veteran.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing the panel, guys. Well, now I'm going to ask for a job commentating some of these tournaments that you guys are hopefully going to set up. So while I beg for a job, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back with the final panel of the day, which is going to be all about esports and education. So we hope you'll join us for that. And if you enjoyed the panel, then share your thoughts, #ESI London, ESI LDN.